Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Finding Yourself podcast, a mini podcast series centered around movies and TV. I'm your host, Kyle Duffy, and in today's episode, I want to take time to talk about the TV show Will and Grace. Before we begin, I'd like to point out that my voice may sound a bit different in this episode. Unfortunately, this week I came down with a bad dose of the man flu, so if my voice sounds a bit different, that's the reason why. Hopefully, this doesn't affect the quality of the audio too much. I'm assuming most people will be aware of the show Will and Grace, even if you hadn't watched it. I don't watch it regularly. The show's pilot episode aired in 1998. It ran for 9 seasons, and the show has actually had a revival in the last 2 years with the release of season 10 and 11 and talks of a renewal for season 12. For anyone unaware of the plot and premise of Will and Grace, I'll just give a quick synopsis. It centers around two best friends living in New York trying to maneuver through their love life and careers together. Personally, Will and Grace wasn't a show that I watched growing up. It wasn't a show that I watched in my teenager years either. It was a show that I was aware of but never got into. It wasn't until my girlfriend actually sat me down one weekend, we had nothing to watch, and she said, why don't we try Will and Grace? Because you haven't tried it yet. I think you'd love it. And I thought, why not? Because she actually had turned me on to a couple of shows already, like Always Sunny. So I said, yeah, I'll give it a chance. She popped in the DVD that night, and to be honest, since that moment, I've loved this show. I would consider Will and Grace one of my comfort shows. I think everyone has comfort shows that they can just throw on at the end of the day to put them in a good mood, to make them just happy and de-stress. Will and Grace is one of those shows for me. Even though I love the show as a whole, as I got through each season and learned more about the characters, I started to develop a love-hate relationship with the show, and my hatred towards the show was directed in one area. The rest of the show I loved. I love the premise, I love the writing. The jokes land every time, in my opinion anyway, and it's very rewatchable. Before I talk about the one aspect of the show that I didn't like, I want to talk about the other aspects of the show that I love. In my opinion, the good does outweigh the bad in Will and Grace. There were many aspects of the show that kept me coming back episode after episode. I want to start with casting. In my opinion, perfect in this show. Eric McCormack, Deborah Messing, Sean Hayes, and Megan Mullally were perfectly cast in the show and do such a good job of embodying their characters to a T. Also, the quality of the guest stars in this show throughout the seasons is amazing. James Earl Jones, Alec Baldwin, Britney Spears, Kevin Bacon, Woody Harrelson, Gene Wilder, and Matt Damon, just to name a few. It's amazing for a TV show to have this vast amount of celebrity cameos and guest stars and not have the celebrity guest stars take over the show or monopolize the episode they're in. In my opinion, when a TV show has celebrities such as Demi Moore, Elton John, and Cher leap at the opportunity to be a small role in one episode, then that's a sign that you're definitely on the right track. As a show that has LGBTQ characters in the forefront, it does a good job of addressing issues that this community face. Although it's a sitcom, it does take time to address issues that this community face on a daily basis and gives these issues the respect they deserve and treats them with the seriousness they deserve. It's very easy to go for laughs all the time and not take anything too seriously in a sitcom, so it's really nice to see Will and Grace as a show using their platform to educate people instead of going for cheap laughs. I'd like to focus in on two characters in particular just for a few minutes in this show. The character of Jack and Karen made this show for me, and I know that's odd to say that supporting characters make a show for you, but the writing for these characters and the way they were portrayed on screen by both Sean Hayes and Megan Mullally had me looking forward to the next episode every single time, and they were the main reason once I got through the first couple of seasons that I kept on coming back for more, because the way they would bounce off each other in scenes was even amazing. They were very good together. The way they played off each other in scenes was very funny, and it just made the show for me. The dynamic they had on screen was excellent. I hope to God they actually have a good friendship off screen, because I think there's nothing worse than getting invested in a show, falling in love with the characters, and then realizing that the actors that play the characters aren't good friends, or even worse, hate each other in real life. I'm hoping they're good friends in real life. Well, I'm assuming they would be, because if a relationship was that bad on set, I doubt actors would sign on season after season to come back if it was unbearable. Or maybe they would, what do I know? I suppose it is a paycheck at the end of the day. So for me, it really became the Jack and Karen show. And if you have seen Will and Grace and you are into it, let me know if it became the Jack and Karen show for you too. do. Alright, I suppose I should get into the one aspect of the show that I do hate, and that is the character of Grace. Not the actress, that's different. I actually do like Deborah Messing as an actress, think she's very talented, but I hated the character of Grace with a passion. It didn't start off as hatred. I didn't hate her at all in the beginning, actually. Liked her. The hatred grew as I went through the seasons, and I'll explain why. The main reason I grew to hate Grace as a character wasn't that she wasn't developed as a character. It was how her character developed. She slowly turned into this person that if I met in real life, I would absolutely despise her. So her being the main character of this show, I hated her. I felt completely detached from her as a character. I didn't care about anything that was going on in her storyline. And whenever she was on screen, my blood would boil over because my hate became almost an irrational hate. Do you ever meet someone in person? It might be in school, college, work, whatever, even on the street, and you just have an irrational hatred for that person. It might be over a small interaction or an extended interaction, but you just grow to hate them, and it builds and builds. That's the experience I had with Grace's character overall throughout the seasons. What do I hate about Grace? Oh, I'm glad you asked. There's her big boundaries issue with Will. She's selfish and she's toxic. She is just a toxic person. And Will's character has some of those personality traits as well. Like Grace, he has boundary issues with her and he can be toxic at times as well. Now, he displays this behavior in the early seasons, but this behavior from him kind of dissipates, whereas with Grace's character, it just continues and it snowballs, where you see Will learning from things and trying to progress and learn and grow. Grace seems to be the one holding them back from growing together, and this just made me hate her season after season with just this boundary issue, really toxic bullshit. There was always some problem she had, some issue that she wanted to sort out that was always Will's fault or someone else's fault, but she never took blame for anything, which just frustrated me episode after episode. I just kept thinking, Jesus, if I was Will, I would sell the apartment and move the hell out of New York at this stage. I wouldn't care about the lifelong friendship. I would just think, this is not worth my time. Now, I do realize this is a sitcom and they're playing these situations for laughs, but I just don't find that funny. I don't find people acting like assholes and never learning from stuff funny. It's not endearing to me. It's just gonna make me hate the character no matter who's playing them. They could have one of the best actors in the world playing a character, but if they're hateable and never grow in the show and even show signs that they want to grow and learn from things, I'm going to hate them. Despite my rant, I do actually really suggest binging this show. It is such a good show, and like I said before, the good does outweigh the bad. Like I mentioned, the guest stars in the show are amazing, and that actually continues on into the new seasons, which I'm still watching at the moment. It's amazing to see how Will and Grace maintained the allure for celebrity guest stars and kept its influence in mainstream media enough to successfully make a comeback several years later. It's amazing to see. So yeah, I do recommend watching Will and Grace. Binge it if you haven't already. It's definitely worth your time. If you're looking for some way to view it, I'm pretty sure that some places have it up on Amazon Prime. It was on Amazon Prime for a time anyway. If not, it's also available on Sky and Now TV, I think. This has been my review of Will and Grace. Again, if there's any TV show or movie you want to hear me talk about in particular, you can leave me a comment with a suggestion. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and thanks for listening.